Welcome to eclipse season, also known as cosmic course correction season. But when it comes to the Libra Lunar Eclipse, March 25th, 2024, it's more like cosmic connection correction season. Hi, my name's Haley Comet, and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the Internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today, all things Libra Lunar Eclipse 2024 and you. What this fated lunation is bringing to the surface around your life and around your relationships as this eclipse lands in the sign Libra. So the focus around this eclipse is truly around our connections, the balance between self and other, or the lack of balance between self or other. As this is a full moon eclipse, full moons bring things to light. The moon, which at many points in the cycle was shrouded in darkness, is now fully exposed. And with this lunar eclipse on the south node, there could be something that is revealed that helps us put a certain chapter behind us, or close or fulfill a certain cycle in order to move forward more impactfully. And so there can be something revealed that shows you who people are during this time. And I want to let you know that if someone shows you who they are during this Libra lunar eclipse, believe them. Eclipses are a time in which what is meant to be revealed is revealed. What's meant to enter your life enters your life. What's meant to exit your life will exit your life. There's a huge emphasis on exiting as this lunar eclipse is on the south node. But just knowing that if something comes up around a certain connection, around a certain relationship, or a pattern that you bring with you into your relationships, this is a big lunar eclipse for my people pleasers, for those who struggle with codependency, there is a call with this full moon to have this epiphany and shed and release. Because with this energy of the lunar eclipse in Libra, especially with it opposing Neptune, we'll go so much deeper within the overall forecast. But with this eclipse in Libra, there is this need to let down the mask, or trying to pretend that you are Miss or Mr. Perfect, or perhaps you're dealing with a lover, a partner, a friend who's not being honest about their true selves. And again, if something comes out during eclipses, if somebody accidentally drops the mask or something of that nature, that's the universe protecting you, wanting you to know that information. But this does not need to be destructive. This does not need to be scary. This can be an opportunity to move forward within your connections more authentically, more empowered to be your own self. So within this forecast, we will break down what you can expect during the Libra lunar eclipse. We will talk about where you can find where exactly in Placidus house system this Libra lunar eclipse lands in within your chart. And then we'll take it to our sign by sign, house by house forecast around the life arenas that are particularly being activated or spotlighted with this eclipse. I just want to make a brief announcement before we dive into our overall collective forecast that Self-Care Astrology is having group classes in the year 2024, and we would so love to have you. If you're not familiar with Self-Care Astrology, it is the coolest cosmic community on the internet. I may be a little biased, but I swear this is a group of individuals who are not only passionate about astrology, but passionate about utilizing these cycles and utilizing their birth chart in order to activate their own magic, to live in alignment with the cosmos. So Self-Care Astrology is an 8-week online program. There's options where you can add on one-on-one support if you're really looking to dive deep. And then on any tier that you jump into within the year 2024, you will be included in all of the monthly group classes that we are having. And these group classes are voted on by the individuals within the celestial cohort. They are held on Zoom, so you can join from anywhere in the world. And they are all designed to accommodate as many people's schedules as possible, so we can all connect, so we can all move through some of this chaotic astrology like eclipses, just feeling deeply held, supported, and seen by individuals who are just as passionate about this topic as we are. So if you're feeling this call to jump in, I just want to let you know that you can use the code Eclipse Season to save 33% off. So if you're feeling the call, I would so love to work with you within this program and within these group classes, within these voice memos or one-on-ones, whichever tier that you select. You can find all of the information below within the description, as well as within the pinned comment. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the Libra Lunar Eclipse 2024. The Libra lunar eclipse lands on March 25th, 2024 at 12 a.m. PDT. So that is Pacific time zone. So make sure to adjust to your time zone to figure out when it exacts where it is that you are located. And while that's the time that the full moon reaches totality, that is most certainly not the only time that these feels and emotions and epiphanies are limited to. And now, while that is the time that it reaches totality, that is most certainly not the only time that the feels, emotions, and epiphanies that this lunar eclipse will prompt will be limited to. In fact, you will feel the intensity begin to build right when the sun ingresses into Aries. We enter eclipse season, and even in the days following the Libra lunar eclipse, you could still be feeling that frenetic, chaotic, erratic, emotional feeling that eclipses tend to bring to the surface. And while we all have our own unique lunar eclipse in Libra story, I do want to highlight that for some, this story is a little bit more of an exclamation mark, a little bit more impactful or deeply potent. And that may be the case if you observe that within your natal chart, you have your sun, moon, ascendant, Mercury, Venus, or Mars placed between 0 to 10 degrees, Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. That indicates that this Libra lunar eclipse will be making a harsh aspect to your personal placements, indicating it may be a little bit more transformative for you personally. We tend to, as we are navigating this time, have eclipse brain. So viewing life through a little bit more of a now or never state of mind. And what I want you to sink into, just as you hear this information now, as well as when you go off to navigate eclipse season and its story for you, what I want you to sink into is just the knowledge that what's meant to be will be. And this is a time that can feel very foggy or unclear, especially with this full moon opposing Neptune. There could be certain realizations where you're like, gosh, why does this person need to be like this? Or gosh, why am I in this relationship pattern? Why can I not free myself or transform away from this relationship pattern? Just know that the eclipse will spotlight certain arenas. You may not get all of the answers or all of the clarity right away during the time of the eclipse. The eclipse energy continues to essentially ricochet out for the next 6 months. Don't worry, it won't always feel like it does right now. Eclipses make everything feel a little bit more intense, but just know that it is a story that is continuing to play out. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to break up on the Libra lunar eclipse, but just observe if you do get an epiphany or an awareness around who it is that you want to navigate this life with. And beyond just romantic relationships, this Libra lunar eclipse could bring up a lot about what it is that we expect within our partners, within our friendships, within our associates. There's a real celestial spotlight on the give and take, on the fairness of the matter. Libra is the sign of balance. It's the sign of the scales. And so this Libra lunar eclipse is creating realizations around where the scales are like this. Where it is not fair, where you have been giving more than you've been receiving, where people have been taking advantage of your kindness. I see that with the opposition to Neptune, where it is that you have been prioritizing other people's needs at the expense of your own integrity, what it is that you have suppressed within yourself in this desire to try to project perfection or to always keep things under the rug. Don't cause a fuss, don't cause a scene, don't advocate for your needs. Just pretend like everything's fine. Just pretend like everything's fine. Just pretend like everything's fine. With this Libra lunar eclipse, it's a spotlight around how much that has taken from you. Because oftentimes when you pull from the reserves around this was disrespectful, but I just want things to be balanced and harmonious, so I'm just going to let this one go, let this one go, let this one go. Every time you let this one go, when it is something that has majorly disrespected you, it is something you're pulling from the reserves. And it just feels like for a lot of us with this Libra lunar eclipse, there's just this acknowledgement that your reserves are empty, that you have dug so deep that you have nothing left to give. And these individuals perhaps have nothing left to take. And this might be painful to hear, but I do want to say the thing about these patterns that we get stuck in where we are just giving and giving and giving at the expense of ourselves is that we do need to take accountability for that. We do need to acknowledge where we have kept ourselves in this dynamic and not enforce the boundaries necessary in order to make this a truly equitable connection. And however this is showing up, we'll take it to your chart to figure out what's aligning for you. But there is a spotlight on not just relationships. It's not saying people are evil, they just take from me. It's also acknowledging what's my pattern here. Where can I enact my boundaries a little bit more firmly? Where am I actually getting an ego payoff around saying yes when I want to say no because I want to save face and getting that validation from others? Where is it that I am constantly putting other people's needs before my own because I'm scared that they'll leave me, and that makes me feel like I can't be left? There is this personal accountability that we are taking with us in the reveals during this time around where have I contributed to this unfair dynamic? And for some of us, there also just could be a spotlight just on where we are keeping the peace and keeping ourselves in illusion. Like I said, with opposition to Neptune, around deal with it a different day, deal with it a different day. The lunar eclipse could bring up some symptoms just within your life around leaving it for another day, all of the harm that has created. Because I want to make it so clear, yes, there's a huge focus on relationships, and I do feel a lot of us are closing out very toxic cycles that have been ongoing during this Libra lunar eclipse. But we are here to connect. So it's not saying you need to dump everybody within your life. But what this Libra lunar eclipse is making you realize is that when we pretend to be something that we are not, when we say something's fine when it's not, when we say yes when we want to say no, when we suppress our authenticity in order to project what we feel like this person wants from us, that is actually taking us further from closeness. Like with this Libra lunar eclipse, if we are willing to drop the facade, this lunar eclipse trines Pluto, which can be real, true, deep intimacy, allowing ourselves to be seen, allowing ourselves to release, I'm not Mr. Perfect, I'm not Miss Perfect, I have flaws. We all do. But I just feel like for some of us, this Libra lunar eclipse is asking us if we are willing to allow ourselves to be seen as we are. Not just the pretty exterior, but also what's beneath the surface, even if it's not, pretty. Yes, for some of you who are in committed relationships, this lunar eclipse could bring up a cycle coming to a close, a chapter being closed. And it's not saying that you are necessarily shutting the door on this person, but for some of you, let's say there's been a loop that you've been in within your relationship around not being honest about what it is that you feel, and not being honest about your desires, and not being honest about your boundaries. That can be a cycle that is coming to a close for a new authentic cycle to begin, a vulnerable cycle to begin. The next eclipse will align with Chiron. Stay tuned on the channel. I will have a dedicated all sign forecast for that one as well. So make sure to keep your eye on my channel or subscribe. We'd love to have you here in the Cosmic Corner. But for some of you, okay, and this won't be for everybody, so I want you to just sink in, take a deep breath, try to listen to what it is that I'm saying without fear. For some individuals, you may find that this eclipse prompts you to realize that this connection has reached a completion, that you have learned all that you can learn from this person, that it's time for you to carve your own path. As scary as that can be, that is a beckoning currently with North Node Aries, to follow our own path and to acknowledge the aspects of ourself and our journeys and our desires that we are suppressing in order to keep ourselves artificially contained within the expectation of this relationship. Like I feel for some individuals, there's this awareness around my path is taking me here, and I have been suppressing the call to try to still be what I need to be within this relationship, but my path is taking me elsewhere. And for some of you, this isn't even someone that you are in a relationship with. For some of you, it's an ex or a situationship, or even just someone who you've had like a weird telepathic, confusing energy with, where you've never been able to define it, but it's been taking a lot from you. There can be a call to release, to observe where it is that these are distractions from your own path. So for those of you who are feeling a call, and again, the eclipse will show you what you are meant to see, okay? But for some of you who are feeling the call around releasing an ex, there can be an awareness around, gosh, I have been holding out this candle for this individual, keeping this flame lit, denying myself from other opportunities, dreaming of this person, daydreaming about this person, fantasizing about this person, praying for the day that this person comes back, at the expense of where my journey is taking me here and now. With the North Node Aries, that is the call. And I'm not saying that reconciliations can't happen, but be aware around where that is taking from you more than it is giving to you. Again, this is the scales. So there is a spotlight. If you've been putting so much energy into the dream of it all and fantasizing and trying to manifest this specific person where other arenas of your life are faltering, this Libra lunar eclipse could be asking you to just allow bygones to be bygones, to understand that there's so much more ahead of you. If you are truly meant to be with this person, it will work out. Just observing how much you've been giving and giving and giving towards something that's not showing up within your physical reality. And I see that also just with those who have like a situationship or like a telepathic connection. There can be this awareness around, I've been pouring so much into this. And yes, it's alive. Listen, if you've never been in one, telepathic psychic connections are real, and they can be inspiring. They can be interesting. They could be a lot of things, but they could be draining. And so for some of you, there's this awareness around, I've been putting all of this energy into this connection and nothing is happening within my physical world. I'm putting all this energy towards this connection that's just stuck in the ethers. Like with this lunar eclipse opposing Neptune, like it's time to get into the raw physicality of life. The North Node is in Aries. And learning from life, not holding out for this perfect ideal, whether that's existing within, an ex that we have on a pedestal or telepathic connection. It's just allowing ourselves, hey, if those are meant to be, they will be. With North Node Aries, it's getting some data, it's trying things, it's dating different sorts of people. If you have been holding out for this ideal, for this dream person to come back into your reality, I'm not saying they won't, but this lunar eclipse could be asking you, hey, let's put out that candle for now. Let's not avoid dating because we're waiting for this person to call. Let's not keep ourselves from going on that dream trip because we are waiting for our ex to come back. Like, let's live life. We have this precious human experience for us to learn our own lessons and carve out who it is that we are meant to be. Be conscious of where it is that you are keeping these dreams alive and projecting your own future upon somebody when it's not showing up within your 3D reality. And so with this Libra lunar eclipse, there can be a call around a relationship pattern or a relationship that you're being asked to shed. Some of you are being asked to shed a cyclical pattern. Keep in mind, full moons are culmination energy around people pleasing and codependency. Feeling that your value is only tied up into being validated by others or being in a relationship with others. There can be a spotlight on how much it has taken from you to try to project yourself as being the ideal employee. You can count on me. It doesn't matter that I have to stay 6 hours after work and then I'm so exhausted and burnt out that I can cry and I haven't sat down to eat an actual meal in 7 weeks' time. Sure, I'll take on this extra assignment. Or that friend who's always asking you for favors, even when they have not really done anything for you, and just keeping all of that hidden, just being like, sure. Or not advocating for yourself when it comes to something disrespectful around the home. This Libra lunar eclipse can be asking you to shed this need to be perceived as perfect by everybody. Because this Libra lunar eclipse is really bringing up just how draining it is to constantly be projecting this ideal of perfection. Because something I've found as a recovering perfectionist is that the more that I had this attachment around needing to be seen this perfect way, and you can count on me and I'm perfect and I've got it all together, perfect employee, perfect friend, you can count on me, I'm always there. How does she do it? How does she do it all? The more obsessed I was with projecting that front, the more my life behind the scenes got more and more messy. The more I was quite literally falling apart, trying to be what everybody else needed me to be. Let me say, that is a hollow way to live. That validation only lasts for a millisecond and then you crave another hit. It's so much more empowering to live an authentic, true life. It's so much more rich. It's so much more enjoyable to live a life that, yes, is messy around the edges. Yes, sometimes you're going to make someone upset when you say no. Yes, sometimes your jokes are going to be a little crude and your availability to take on extra work at work can be a little scattered. That's a life. And with the energy of North Node Aries, it's asking us, can we drop the act? Can we drop the act of always being perfect, of always being whatever people need us to be, just morphing and shapeshifting into perfect friend by 8, then perfect employee by 10, and then perfect this and then perfect that? What would it look like to just be? and not need to continually have that front around, we've got it all together, we are the ideal. For some of you, this is showing up around dating. If you have a tendency to keep people at arm's length, you don't want them to see the raw, messy you. You don't want them to see the underbelly of who it is that you are and what it is that you're about. So you keep people at arm's length so you could keep up the ideal, keep up what you think they want you to be. This eclipse is asking you to close out that cycle as well. So this will make more sense as we take it into our sign by sign, house by house analysis. But overall, just look for spotlights, epiphanies, awarenesses that emerge around fairness, peace, balance within your life, the patterns around relating, codependency, people pleasing, needing to project a certain ideal in an effort to hide your vulnerability, needing to be seen by others in a certain way to feel personally worthy. If you are feeling strongly connected to this Libra lunar eclipse, you may be asking, well, Haley Comet, should I do a ritual? How do I really seal in this energy? My personal take, based on my study within traditional astrology, is that I would just wait and see, listen and learn. There's nothing that you need to do with this eclipse. Eclipses are when fated events happen. Fated information is revealed, fated people come into our lives, fated people exit our lives, timelines collapse, new timelines initiate. It is not a time that you need to get involved. It is not a time that you need to do a lunar eclipse ceremony in order to release this person. You will have awareness. The eclipse will show you what is meant to be seen. And your only job is to take that data. Your only job is to stay grounded, take the data, strive to see it clearly. Again, this lunation opposes Neptune, so it might be a little hazy, but really strive to see what is coming up during this time. It will make sense in time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into how you can find where this lunar eclipse lands within your chart. So you may be saying, Haley Comet, I understand the Libra lunar eclipse, the fated significance of this particular eclipse that is aligning within the collective, but what does it mean for me, myself, my own journey? For that, you'd want to look at your own birth chart. Now, there are two ways to do this. The first being, if you use whole sign house system or you're newer to astrology, what you'll do is you'll find out your ascendant sign, your rising sign. You'll look below within the description and you'll find the timestamp that corresponds with your rising sign. Progress to that timestamp and that is your reading. If you utilize Placidus house system, I do as well. For that, we want to look at where specifically you have 5 degrees Libra in your chart. So to do this, you'll want to find your full circle chart and I'll show a visual on screen. So once you've pulled up this picture on astro.com inputting your birth information, what you'll do is you'll look for the Libra glyph. It looks like this. It's kind of like yellow orange on Astro, and you'll find where Libra begins and Virgo ends. So I'm circling Virgo on screen. It's like the green M, where Virgo and Libra begins. And since this eclipse lands at 5 degrees Libra, we'll want to find that first little grid mark. This is 5 degrees Libra. I'm circling it here. You'll follow to the inner ring. You'll see a little number there. That is corresponding to the house that is being brought up. So within the description, you will advance to that timestamp that corresponds to that house. So within this example on screen, we see it's within the first house. If you're unsure, you're like, gosh, Haley, it could be in the first house, could be in the second house. What you'll do is you'll click PDF, additional tables, and that will give you a breakdown around what degree every house begins. So you can see, okay, my second house begins at 7 degrees Libra. This eclipse is at 5 degrees Libra. So if the second house begins at 7 degrees Libra, then this lunar eclipse must land in the first house. So hopefully that gave you some clarity. Let's go ahead and take it into our house by house, sign by sign analysis. If you are a Libra rising or 5 degrees Libra lands within the first house of your astrological natal chart, this is your reading. So what it is that you are shedding during this Libra lunar eclipse is an outdated version of self. This lunar eclipse trines Pluto. So there is something coming through about the container in which you're holding yourself. It's not supporting your growth moving forward. It's almost like a plant that's root bound where there's no room to grow. And where that container is blocking you is coming around how it is that you perceive yourself, how it is that you see and hold yourself, the esteem you hold yourself within. And this could be showing up around seeing yourself as a page when you're really a queen, or seeing yourself as somebody who only has value if you are in a certain sort of relationship or making people happy, and seeing yourself as the empowered person that you are. Ask yourself the container by which you hold yourself, you see yourself, the identity you see yourself with. When you identify yourself, I am, a Libra rising, not all of you Libra ascendants, but I am a Libra rising, I am this, I am that. Really ask yourself if the phrases and the self-concept that you drape yourself in is supporting you in evolving and transforming forward. I also see that you are shedding a certain way that you have seen yourself, and this is directly correlated to relationships that you have been within. Around, maybe you dated somebody who constantly told you, you're so this, you're so that, you're not good at this. And with the Libra Lunar Eclipse, it's getting out of distortion, understanding those were reflections, those were projections that you were putting on me. And the more that I empower my own growth, the more I realize that that really doesn't say anything about who it is that I am. So I'm going to shed that way of seeing myself. It was never mine to take on. It was never mine to carry. For some of you, the shift is occurring around a certain way of seeing yourself that's tied around how others see you. And I know that feels complicated, but what I see is there has been a certain ego attachment, or just being the one who's always there to help, always the number one friend, or the partner who's always there, the friend who's always there, or always needing to be in a relationship. Like ways that you see yourself where when you're not the perfect friend, when you're not in a relationship, it throws your entire sense of self off balance. You suddenly start to wonder, what is my worth? Who am I if I'm not this person's friend, if I'm not this person's partner? We're here to connect. It's not saying the connections is the problem, but the problem is when those connections depart your life and they knock you down to your feet, where you suddenly don't know who you are, and then you cling to a new partnership or connection because you've identified with it. Cancel, no longer. And for some of you, there's this old operating system that's moving through you, that's flushing out of you during this Libra lunar eclipse, around just fully processing and shedding needing to be the perfect ideal within relationships. There's a deeply healing vibe about the next eclipse that we're stepping into. Stay tuned on my channel. I will break it down for you. But the next eclipse is deeply about a new cycle around healing and vulnerability and allowing our raw expression. And for some of you, you've actually been blocking calling in that soulmate or that true life partner, or ascending to a new level of intimacy within your connections, because there's this attachment around they've got to see me like this. I don't want them to see the real ugliness. They've got to see me as though I've always got it together and just always, perfect and always ideal, because to you, you can even fear that if someone gets closer to those attributes of you, that they won't love you anymore. But what I'm seeing taking place within this eclipse season is you're realizing that when you allow your truth, your raw truth coming through into your romantic life and into your connections, it makes you even more lovable. So it's shedding feeling like you need to keep things like surface level, or just showing people what you think will be the most seductive or alluring, because what I see is that some of you are really shedding codependency, and the reason why you've learned to project or put off a certain vibe out into the world is because it's been ingrained in you that that's the only way that you will receive love, only way that you will be accepted by others. And there's a feeling around, if I'm not accepted by others, if I'm not validated by others, if I'm not liked by others, who am I? So it almost felt like that fear around, if they see my authenticity, if they see that it's not always harmonious and balanced all of the time and pretty all the time. Let's be real. Okay, you've got Libra in your first house. I know you're super pretty. This person could leave me. And if this person can leave me, who am I? And what is my life? It can almost feel like a fate worse than death if you're in between relationships, or if you get rejected or something of that nature. But you know what's truly a fate worse than death is living a life in which you never allow yourself to fully live out your desires and your dreams and your own authenticity. And this lunar eclipse is asking you to release just certain ways that you've seen yourself as being valuable and lovable only through other people's eyes. It's really allowing yourself to love yourself just for being you. I do want to share, while I think that there are some potent activations taking place for you during this eclipse, it can feel very confusing, especially with the opposition to Neptune. you can find that there's certain things that you've held on to or ways that you've seen yourself that you're being asked to shed. And the in-between, the liminal space, can be confusing. This feels like an energy around someone who's always jumped from relationship to relationship to relationship, choosing to be single. And that's a very painful process because it brings up a lot up to the surface that you've been running from, right? I see that with the trine to Pluto in the 5th house. I feel like there's some of you that I'm talking to where if it's not a relationship, it's a crush. Your energy was always directed towards others. And if it's just towards yourself, there's almost this energy around just confusion around what do I put this into? But think of all of the power that you pour into your connections. Think of all of the power that you've poured into connections. And for some of you, connections where you felt like that love was not utilized or reciprocated or returned, I want you to see just pouring that all into yourself. Now, I don't want you to feel this time to be closed off to love. Like with North Node going through the 7th house, absolutely. The universe could be bringing fated individuals in and out of your life. Absolutely. The door is open, okay? So it's not about being shut out, but it's ensuring that you're entering these sort of connections from the right reason, not trying to avoid your own stuff, not trying to prove to yourself that you are worthy or lovable, not trying to prove to yourself you're attractive. Like I see some of you with this energy of the Libra Lunar Eclipse within the 1st house. Some of you could be feeling just not connected to your aesthetic any longer, your style, how it is that you put yourself together. You're definitely in this transformative time, and you could just be looking at your past and not resonating with that because you're like, I'm transformed, I'm different now, but also looking at your future and being like, I don't know what that looks like. It feels murky. You're in the in-between. And that's okay to be in the in-between. With the trine to Pluto, I want you to be intentional around doing what lights you up, expressing yourself, dressing in the ways that light you up. If you've had certain relationships where it's like, I like it when you wear white, I like it when your hair is lighter, or whatever these aesthetics or certain ways that you put yourself together that have been internalized by others, this is a time to transform and really center it within self around what makes me feel aligned, what makes me feel like I'm expressing myself powerfully. With this energy, you know, I do feel like some of you have a very alluring crush or someone who's in your orbit. With Pluto in the 5th house, some of you might be kind of obsessed with somebody or somebody who's obsessed with you. There's definitely somebody within your orbit, okay? Or at least I feel like there could be somebody coming in pretty soon. But with the Libra Lunar Eclipse, it's just ensuring that the cycles within your journey are closed out, are complete, are done. That the cycles that needed to be completed, the loose ends that needed to be tied, the healing that is needed to take place is kaput. And trusting that divine timing will bring you together with the right individuals in accordance to the right time. But you're being asked to center yourself. It's okay. But you're being asked to really observe outdated versions of yourself and of your life that you're being asked to flush away, for you to invite in fated counterparts, associates, crushes, any sort of one-to-one that could be coming into your experience, like ensuring that you are doing the work. If you are married and in a relationship, there could be a need during this time to let go of only seeing yourself as this person's, wife or partner, or even having a certain attachment to the appearance of you two being a united front. Again, I'm not saying everybody's going through a breakup, but for some of you, I'm just seeing that there can be this idealizing of, I couldn't ever leave because of how people view us, or what would people say, like this attachment to how things look rather than how things feel. And for some of you are shedding that. Maybe it's even shedding some pain from the past around having limited self-concept because of the breakups and the obstacles that you have had within the past. That is also something that you are getting out of your system. If you are a Virgo ascendant, or you have 5 degrees Libra located within the 2nd house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. What I see that you are letting go of and releasing and purging during this eclipse season is long-held attitudes around money, some of which you could have absorbed from others, as well as ways that you've seen your own worth tied into how other people viewed you. And so let's start by just looking at the money piece. I don't want you to feel with South Node in the 2nd house that it's not going to be a lucrative time for you. But what I will say is it's time for you to expand your concept of money. And it's time for you to be open to new ways that money can reach you. I see for some of you, with this being in Libra, some of you could work for a boss or work with others where there's sort of this energy where you feel bad. You don't want to let them down. you don't want to ask for a raise because you feel like you're stepping on someone's toes. Or maybe your clients are demanding a certain service from you that doesn't necessarily feel good for you to offer, but you do it because you don't want to let people down. Or maybe you work for somebody who just keeps putting more and more responsibility on you, and you don't know how to say no because they are writing your paycheck, so you feel like that justifies the way that they treat you. Those could be some stories that you are flushing out currently. And with the energy of North Node and Aries in the 8th house, keep in mind that story will be much more active with the Aries solar eclipse on April 8th. Stay tuned with my channel. I'll be doing all signs forecasts there too. But I do see with the energy of North Node Aries, some of you need to get a little bit more forthright about your desires and your fierceness around finances, around money. If there's certain conversations you don't want to have, or certain decisions you don't want to have with your business or things of that nature because you don't want to step on any toes, with the energy of North Node Aries, it's really asking you to advocate for yourself, because nobody will advocate for yourself in the way that you will advocate for yourself. And for some of you, there's certain ways of viewing money that you've internalized from other people. Maybe you had a partner who made you feel like it was sinful if you ever spent money on yourself, or maybe you grew up in an environment where there was constant spending and never saving. It's very important with Libra Lunar Eclipse to bring back the scales of what's going out and what's coming in, okay? And observing where those scales are not balanced within your universe, where you are hoarding, never spending money on what it is that you enjoy, or where it's gone the moment it comes in. And listen, I know that this eclipse season lands when Uranus is in Taurus and money is being funky and all over the place. And there are times in our life in which those scales are sort of tilted off balance. But this Libra lunar eclipse is asking for recalibration, especially if you're noticing that these are money attitudes or money styles or fears around money that you have absorbed from others. Because I know I'm talking to a lot of Virgo risings right now, not all of you, but I do see with the energy of the Libra lunar eclipse within the 2nd house, you're also shedding needing for other people to see you as independent, or I pay my own bills, I do my own thing, like almost needing that validation around, look, I'm such a hard worker, I pay my own bills, I handle my own things, I do the hard work, I do the work even when it's hard, grind in, grind out. Like some of you need to open your mindset around money, around being open to things such as like investments or passive income or merging with others in order to grow your finances, because some of you are just constantly in such hustle mode. And for some of you, it's coming from a place around wanting people to see you that way, like see you as the hard worker, or even, this is not a relationship house necessarily, but even blocking yourself from intimacy, just with North Node in the 8th house, around, I don't need you, I pay my own bills, I handle my own stuff. And it's a defense mechanism, because to a certain degree, even if you try to deny it, with at least part of Libra in the 2nd house, you do value how other people see you, and there can be a certain attachment to needing to always project like you've got it all figured out, and I'm always abundant, or I've got my bills taken care of, or what have you, at the expense of truly living. Because when we consider North Node in Aries in the 8th house, some of you are just wanting to live life. Like you're gaining awareness that our time is very finite. Maybe you're getting more into the occult, or something of the nature is pulling you deeper. And it's making you realize that you don't want to look back on your life and just notice all of those overnighters that you pulled and just constantly working without ever taking a moment to do what makes you feel alive. Because for some of you, you're revolutionizing work. I see this with Pluto and Aquarius most likely transiting through your 6th house. Some of you are shifting your work processes so you can work smarter and not harder. And again, that takes releasing only valuing yourself for how hard you work, or needing to be seen by others when I'm such a hard worker, I put the hours in, I'm so independent. Like with the trine to Pluto, be open to revolutionize the way that you approach work, the way that you approach your business, and ensure that how it is that you are approaching money and earning money does feel in alignment with you and isn't just something that you feel like you need to do for others. Or even with the energy of Libra lunar eclipse in the second house, I see some of you could be cutting somebody off if you've been supporting somebody, or if you've noticed that your and your partner's attitudes around finances are misaligned. There could be a shedding here, or for some of you, you could just be having these light bulb moments around noticing that your partner does not value you in the same way that you value them, or just even observing that your value systems are different altogether. Because I do see a lot of you are going through a transformation, or you're really awakening to something profound that's bubbling from deep within. And to be open to that, you need to release this Libra energy around needing to keep up certain appearances or pretend that you guys have it all together. Like I'm seeing for some of you, there could be a need around a partner or somebody wanting to support you and you feeling uncomfortable because you are more independent. And maybe for some of you, there is a pattern around finances coming up and how you use your finances to support others. Maybe there can be a recalibration there. Maybe some of you are cutting someone off that you have supported. Maybe some of you are not working as hard. You're letting other people support you a little bit more. Could also be a nudge that you're feeling here, and that can be scary. It can be scary to let down your defenses. There can be shifts coming into income, but I definitely see that you are wanting a life in which you feel alive, and that you didn't just prioritize material concerns as the first thing, and that you didn't need to be seen as somebody who always had the finest clothes and was always flexing on the gram. Listen, we all love some flexing, but if you notice that you're more focused around portraying an abundant lifestyle and showing the nice things rather than being within your life, living it and experiencing it as a reality, that can be something you're fleshing out. Particularly if these are not things that you value. If it's like, this is what society has told you to value, or you had a partner who made you feel like your value was tied up into your earning power, those are things that you are shedding and releasing during this eclipse. If you are a Leo ascendant, or you have 5 degrees Libra located within the 3rd house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And for you, this Libra lunar eclipse is bringing to the surface deceptive ways that you have been communicating. And it's not so much, I mean, maybe with the opposition to Neptune, it's not so much outright lies necessarily, but there is a story being flushed out of your system around only needing your words to agree or validate what other people are saying. A lot of you are Leo risings. You are here to roar. You are here to roar. And with the Libra lunar eclipse, if you've been swallowing your tongue, holding back, even if something does not feel fair or just to you, even if there's something that is out of line with your own personal ethics, integrity, and even belief systems with North Node Aries in the 9th house, this is a lunar eclipse that is bringing that tendency up to the surface, because we can deceive people in many ways. It's not always being a compulsive liar like Legion, if you watch that TikTok series. If you know, you know. It's not always to that level. There can be such micro ways in which we do this, around saying yes when you really want to say no, or telling someone it's okay, don't worry about me, when actually what transpired didn't sit well with you. It's being at a dinner party and there's a political debate that comes up and you just agree with everyone else rather than voicing what you think is right. With this Libra lunar eclipse, there is a spotlight on this tendency to sugarcoat or to say what other people want to hear. And you're flushing that out of your system in order to pave your journey forward in a more authentic, aligned way with North Node in Aries in the 9th house. Of course, that story will be punctuated with the forthcoming Aries solar eclipse, which I will have a video about on my channel, so make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for that. But that's one theme that I see coming up with this eclipse. I also see some of you are realizing that life cannot be navigated by the mind. It needs to be chiseled by the soul. I feel a helpful affirmation for you during this period is sinking into the knowing that you can't do life wrong. you can't do life wrong. Some of you have been wildly indecisive. Should I do this? Should I do that? But if this happens, then this might happen. Going back and forth, back and forth. And really, you're being asked to kind of quiet the noise of your mind and feel into your soul. What does your soul say? And for some of you, this has to do with a matter regarding a relationship or a personal contact within your life. There is a relationship within your life that is going through a transformation, with Pluto most likely transiting the 7th house. And some of you have been trying to control, or if I only can do the right things and say the right things and take the right logical course of action, then I can resist this transformation. But something that's essential to know during this time is that the transformation is coming. And rather than freaking out and trying to plan or go back and forth around how you want to keep things as they are, you're really being asked to just lean into the spiritual opportunities that are being presented around your growth, around your relationships growth and evolution, and allowing yourself as much as possible to be honest, to not feel like your words need to be perfectly selected and exactly what the other person wants to hear and doesn't ruffle too many feathers. Like, you are being asked to invite in very raw, authentic way of communicating, and this Libra lunar eclipse could be fleshing out the ways that you have not necessarily been so within your communications. Some of you, there may be a spotlight on a neighbor issue that you've been keeping quiet about. And finally, with this Libra lunar eclipse, you're getting the spotlight around me trying to keep the peace is taking away from my quality of life. It's time for me to say something. There can also be something around a sibling that you're not communicating. You're trying to be fair about something. Maybe you feel like the scales are tipped out of balance in regards to helping out a sibling all of the time and them not doing the same, or something of that nature. Those scales within you and a sibling could be being balanced at this moment, and there could be a cycle even that the two of you are shedding. I see for some of you, you might be in like kind of a codependent sort of connection with a sibling, which again, we're here to connect. I'm not saying it's bad to be close to a sibling, but if you are letting this person make decisions for you, or you feel like you can't progress forward in adventure and in travel and all of these nudges of your North Node in Aries because you want validation or you feel shackled by what you need to do for this person, there could be a spotlight on that behavior during this Libra lunar eclipse, and where it is that you are letting it go. And when we talk about third house, it also has to do with anything around social media, marketing, sales. Some of you have been taking sales tactics from other people, and it's important to know that, especially if you own your own business, you are the brand, you are the messaging. And if you've been not putting out social media posts because you want them to be perfect, they need to be perfect, everything needs to be dialed in, it's putting you in the state of indecision. It's putting you in the state of limbo, wanting everything to be perfect, or even doing marketing tactics that other people do or that you've gotten from other people. Your own magic, your most authentic messaging, your most authentic marketing will come from you carving the way. And I just see there could be a lack of interest in the way that you've been showing up on social media, or the way that you've been marketing, or the way that you've been doing sales, because they've been entirely based in either what other people are doing or what you think your customers want. And it's really important to know that, particularly when you're powering up content, you have a podcast, you have a social media channel, it's important to know that you are the driver of the ship. You get to decide where your social media following goes. And so if you are creating content that doesn't feel authentic to you, this lunar eclipse could be asking you to shift the wheel, take you and your following in a new direction. Yes, with the Libra lunar eclipse, you may get some people like, oh, I loved it when you did that series, or why are you only doing weekly podcasts? I used to love the daily ones, or what have you. There could be some pushback, but it's really important, especially with North Node Aries, to thine own self be true. You cannot carve a sales strategy or a marketing tactics or a social media presence only around what other people want from you. It's important that it is something that feels good to you, and that's going to help you get out of this indecision, this limbo. I just see for some of you, you've just been going back and forth, just feeling so indecisive, and your soul has been trying to get your attention. You just need to get out of your mind, okay? You need to get out of your mind around the lunar eclipse. You need to just trust. You cannot do life wrong. You need to attune to what is being shown to you, the steps that are feeling right at this present moment, it and trust that the next stage and the next stage will reveal themselves as the time comes. But right now is a time for trust, okay? We can't use our mind to figure out every step of life. And I just feel like some of you have just been in the state of indecision or limbo or going back and forth, just overthinking something. And I just want you to know, especially around eclipse season, that tendency could be brought up. And some of you just need to focus with North Node Aries. What step is feeling good now? You cannot plan the entire journey. You cannot ensure that you never make a mistake or say the wrong thing. It's important to attune to what feels right now, what your instincts are saying. If you are a Cancer ascendant or you have 5 degrees Libra located within the 4th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you with this lunar eclipse is truly around shedding cycles that have been playing out within family, home, and your emotional state. Let's get more into this. First, let's start with family. Some of you have been brought up to feel like it was more important to keep appearances rather than to genuinely be happy. Like some of you could have found that there was a huge emphasis on your appearance. There could have been a huge emphasis on your successes that your family would always brag about, or just an emphasis to make sure that the front of your house always looked put together and immaculate, even if there was some wild stuff happening behind the scenes. You could have internalized a message from your upbringing that it is more important for things to look good rather than them to feel good. And some of you are flushing out some emotional regulation strategies that you have learned from your upbringing. Like some of you were taught it's more important to keep the peace. If you have a problem, that's your problem. You just need to deal with that in private, but you just need to smooth over feathers and act like everything's okay and always put other people's needs before yourself and not talk about anything that's too emotionally messy. And I see for some of you, you may be a Cancer ascendant, so you are somebody who is very emotionally intelligent, but there can be certain patterns. And again, this could be your immediate upbringing, or it could be even your generational lineage, but there could have been a pattern where you don't always trust your emotions, or sometimes you try to rationalize or tell yourself like you're being so dramatic, like just let it go, like what this person is saying about the situation is probably true. Like you can be indecisive sometimes about your own emotional landscape, or even trying to logicize or rationalize why you shouldn't be feeling how it is that you're feeling, because emotions can feel very raw and scary and intense. And with Libra, at least somewhat in the 4th house, there can be a certain pressure where you feel like it's really important to stay balanced, to make sure you're keeping up appearances, not being too raw, not being too much. And that's something that's being flushed out of your system. With this Libra lunar eclipse, you are realizing that it can be so powerful when you are sinking into your own emotions. And that if you shut down and try to intellectualize what it is that you're feeling, you can also shut down your intuition and lifeline to source energy. And it's embracing that our emotions are raw sometimes, right? They're ugly sometimes, right? Like it's not always pretty, okay? And you're letting go of whatever has made you feel like it was more important to keep it together rather than to just have a reaction and to feel something strongly. And that's okay. I also see some of you are becoming aware, or maybe even shedding a pattern around relationships that you have internalized from your home or from your lineage, around maybe people within your family typically go for this sort of person, or people who struggle in these ways, or people who end up fulfilling this kind of like generational prophecy that these are just the mates that the people in our family happen to choose. And some of you are really gaining awareness around, I'm being drawn to these people because it was what was modeled to me, but what was modeled to me is not necessarily healthy. And again, it's not always about picking. For some of you, it can also just be the emotional energy that you bring with you into these relationships around, are you vocal about what it is that you need? Are you honest with what is moving through you and what is genuinely under the surface? Or are you brushing it under the rug because that's what was modeled to you by maybe your parents or by your grandparents or what have you? Like 4th house can go very deep. And for some of you, you're just becoming aware of codependency or people pleasing around family dynamics. So if you find that the scales have been out of balance around, you're always there for, you know, an in-law or somebody else within your family, so much so that even if you have stuff going on, you'll drop everything in order to be there for them, or you're even holding yourself back from certain experiences because you want to please and appease and be validated by the people within your family unit. That can be something that you are letting go of. You are letting go of needing validation from others. When we consider that North Node in Aries is most likely going through your 10th house, again, I will have an Aries solar eclipse video coming so soon, so make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for that. But when we consider that North Node in Aries is there can be something about your goals or your career that the people within your family unit don't necessarily understand. On the very extreme side, they could even like actively disapprove it. And that is something that you are shedding. Not necessarily the family, but shedding the addiction to validation from them, or feeling like your choices in life need to be approved of by the family that you came from. Like sometimes you have to carve your own path, especially with North Node in Aries. You have to carve your own path based on what feels right to you and just not what makes sense to others. You don't want to get to the end of your life and realize I made all of the decisions trying to get this approval that really never came. Like I feel like for some of you, you've tried to be what your family wanted you to be, and it just made you more indecisive and put you more in limbo. And so you're figuring out this life is my own and I've got to carve my own path for it. And I do want to let you know that there could be themes around shedding certain cycles around your physical residence. Maybe you have prioritized a certain home environment because of someone that you were with, like you're with a partner who really wanted to live by the countryside, and you're realizing like for my career to grow, being in the countryside is actually not supportive. Like the Libra Lunar Eclipse could be kind of the spotlight on what it is that you're sacrificing in order to appease your partner in relation to your home or your living environment. That could also show up with roommates. So if you've been keeping the peace, you've been messing with all my stuff, but keeping the peace, Libra Lunar Eclipse could be really spotlighting the lack of balance within your living environment and what you've been sacrificing in this effort to keep the peace. That could be something that's being spotlighted. Outside of that, you are shedding ways of emotionally grounding and regulating yourself. As I said, I won't lie to you, this may be a more emotional eclipse. It may lead to certain fulfillments or cycles or culminations around home, around family, and around emotional states. So some of you are just going to have certain stories come up to the surface around emotions that you haven't fully healed from within your partnerships potentially, or even just dealing with the guilt of self-betrayal around not speaking your truth when you needed to, and not trusting your intuition, and making other people's voices more important and more loud than the voice that was coming within. Like there could be a grieving around, gosh, I wish it didn't take so long for me to genuinely love myself, or for me to value myself as much as I value others, or to value how I feel as much as I value how others feel. If you are a Gemini ascendant, or you have 5 degrees Libra located within the 5th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And for you, this lunar eclipse is bringing up, and for you, this lunar eclipse is spotlighting your behavior around dating, amongst some other things. But firstly, I want to bring that forward because it's a really strong message that's coming through. Around some of you are shedding some toxic ways, okay? Let me just say it that way. Some of you are shedding some toxic ways. So I see that some of you might be in this kind of like player mentality, like you like when people are interested in you, you like always having a crush, you don't let them get too close, you just like to project being seen in a certain way and staying a bit detached, and you kind of like that. It makes you feel in control, it makes you feel powerful. And for some of you, you are gaining awareness that the player energy that you try to project to show like I'm so unbothered, I've got options, all of this, it's actually getting in the way of true intimacy, is one theme that I see coming up for a couple of you. Another around dating, some of you are realizing that you get a little obsessed with like crushes or things of that nature, and you're leaking your power out via these connections, via always making it about other. It just feels like with 5th house and Libra, it just feels like it's almost like crushes and dating. It's like a hobby for you. You can fantasize a lot about the person that you're dating. You could like love, you know, pick a card, cards or things on these people. Like, it feels like a hobby for you. And I see for my creatives, we'll get to that. This does have to do with creativity as well. But I do feel like for some of you, it's like something that does drive your creativity. Like having these crushes and these situationships or whatever you want to call it. It's fifth house is not so serious connections, okay? I do see that it can be a driver for your own creativity, but I see you're leaking your power out. And it may be because a lot of your mental energy is going towards these connections, or it could be that if you are creative and that message resonates, you are thinking that your muses, the subjects of what it is that you're creating, are responsible for the visions or the ideas that are coming through. It's you, my love. You are the conduit. These people just bring up and reflect certain aspects that have always been within you. They've been within you the entire time. Other people just mirror and reflect these central attributes of ourselves, and they generate certain ideas. I just shared this in Magic Monday pretty recently, but whenever I think through this energy, I just think about how Lana Del Rey wrote video games about her boyfriend who was playing World of Warcraft. That was her vision. That was her gaze. That was her artistry. That was just a man playing World of Warcraft. No shade to people who play World of Warcraft, but she was able to project her artistry on that situation. And that artistry didn't depart when she was no longer with that man playing World of Warcraft. You still have the lens. You may not have the subject, but you still have the lens and the creativity. So for some of you, you might be feeling uninspired creatively because you've had a falling out or something weird went down with a crush or something of that nature. And it's important to like center yourself around, I don't need other people to be creative. I don't need this person in order to express myself. There can be something coming up there. What I also see around creativity, even if it has nothing to do with a relationship necessarily, I see that some of you have been subduing or muting how it is that you want to express yourself within whichever medium that you happen to do so. You have been trying to give people what they want rather than what feels authentic for you to create. Some of you have been in a partnership, like you've had a creative partner or something of that nature, where you've been prioritizing their ideas above your own. You haven't been advocating for yourself around, no, I think this would work well. And that could be something that you are looking at and releasing. Some of you may be very indecisive around wanting to have children. Maybe your partner wants to have children and you do not, or you do and your partner does not, but it just feels like there's been a weighing back and forth. Or maybe you're like, I wanted to, but now with the state of the world, I just don't know. Like there's been kind of like this back and forth sensation around the attitude around having children. And I do see that those conversations, or you could have an epiphany that helps you gain a little bit of clarity around that, around children, and if it's an authentic desire of yours, or you just trying to appease your partner, or if you would feel satisfied with your life if that is not part of your hopes and dreams, having children. That can be something that is up for review during this lunar eclipse. And if you already have children, some of you have been sugarcoating the world to them or not telling them about the harsh realities. Like when we think about the energy of Libra, it's about peace and justice and fairness. And so for some of you, maybe you've been trying to keep your children sheltered by not exposing them to some of the unfair qualities of this planet, which of course, it's going to depend on age. I'm not saying you need to, make your kids jaded if they're like 6 or 7, but there can be ways that you could be kind of stagnating their growth by sugarcoating or not essentially making them aware in small, age-appropriate ways of just some of the more raw realities of life. And for some of you, you could be in certain patterns around like overly supporting your adult children, like enabling them a little bit. It's important that we can't do people's push-ups for them. And I know it's so hard as a parent. You love your child more than anything else in the world, and you don't want them to have to go through anything challenging. But I just want to share with you, especially with this lunar eclipse trining Pluto, if we ever see a butterfly struggling to get out of the cocoon, it's important to let them do that work. It's actually very painful for the butterfly to break out of the cocoon. It hurts a lot. And if we were to go over and be like, oh my gosh, that looks so hard, let me help you out. we actually ruin that butterfly's life, because it's the struggle that allows their wings to grow. It's the struggle that allows them to be strong and to surf above life's challenges. So just observing where this pattern around enabling or telling your children exactly what they want to hear or letting them get away with too much, observe where that could be hurting more than it is helping. If you are a Taurus rising or you have 5 degrees Libra located within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. So the Libra Lunar Eclipse is bringing up the fairness or lack thereof, I should say, around your workplace. And for some of you, the scales have been very out of balance. You have been giving more than you've been receiving, or you've been working more than you've been resting. Something about your day-to-day could feel like it is out of balance. And with North Node Aries within the 12th house, there's a lot happening beneath the surface, and people may not be privy to all that is unfolding within you. You could be kind of in a hermit space, or you're just protecting your peace a little bit more, and you're getting comfortable around letting people down, or at least this Libra lunar eclipse is asking you to get a little bit more comfortable letting people down. And I'm not saying in a deceitful way. We are here to connect. Be a kind person, but it's more so around if there is an employee whose work you always take on, or there is a situation at work where you constantly just people please and go with what is asked of you, even if it does not necessarily feel fair. If there has been certain work schedules that are not aligned for how it is that you want to live your life, but you just go along with it because it's what other people want from you or expect from you, this eclipse could be bringing to the surface just how much it's taking from you, this effort to try to keep the peace and make sure that everybody likes you at work and that you're the star employee and that you're there for every opportunity. You are realizing that your time alone is just as sacred as your time spent being of service to others, especially if when you approach to do service for others, you do so from this martyr role around, oh, I have to. Like, service is best given with a happy heart, right? When we genuinely want to serve, like the energy we pour into something will be the energy that's felt. And so if you're doing a lot for other people from this martyr tendency around, oh, I don't want to help you move out for the 3rd day in the row, like my back still hurts from yesterday, but you're like, sure, through gritted teeth, like that resentment will leak out in other ways. Like when you're picking up a box and grunting, the person's gonna be like, dang, are they mad at me? Like it leaks out when we aren't being honest, when we're suppressing and just being like, it's so important, I've got to always be there for other people. Listen, it's important to help others, but I do feel like some of you are really just observing, hey, my own time, space, and connection to myself matters too. My own spiritual development matters too. And some of you are just calibrating, like maybe you've gone through a season where your life was totally about work and now you're just kind of swinging to the opposite side where you're just like, I just need to rest. Like that was a lot. Some of you might be between jobs. Some of you could be letting go of certain responsibilities that no longer feel fair. Some of you can have certain tensions where you've been keeping the peace and keeping the peace and keeping the peace with certain employees or certain coworkers could reach a head around this lunar eclipse. There could be certain stories that come up around your routine where it is putting you out of balance, where you might be giving too much of your energy to other people and not enough alone. This won't be a message for everybody, but there's a message coming through around some of you might be with a partner who's very either extroverted and always wants to be social, or is somebody who just really loves being with you every single moment. Like if they could, they would just shrink themselves and live in your shirt pocket all of the time. And that's so beautiful to have a connection that deep and to have somebody who wants to spend time with you. But I do feel some of you need to advocate for your own personal space a little bit more. And I get it, it's hard. I struggle with this a lot. But what has helped me step into advocating for it is realizing that if I don't get that sacred time with myself, that soulful time with myself, I bring some weird energy into the connection and into our routines, how we spend our minutes and our hours, where sometimes that resentment leaks out in other ways. And just being vocal around, I need a walk today, or can we hang out with our friends today, or just the space and the time that you need just to be able to come inward is important. And this could also just be showing up around household duties between you and your partner. Maybe they've been feeling feeling out of balance and you've been trying to keep the peace, doing 75% when this person's only doing 25, or doing 90 when this person's doing 10, or what have you. And there could be a need to be like, just because I can do it all doesn't mean I want to. Like, we are a partnership. Let's get some balance here. And you need to learn to advocate for yourself. Like, North Node in Aries is trying to teach us all how to advocate for ourselves. And for you, advocate for your day. Advocate for where your minutes are going, your hours are going. Advocate for how your work days are spent. Advocate for what's going in your body. There's a random message coming through where some of you, it's like you just have adapted to your partner's way of eating, even if your way of eating might be a little bit different. And it might be important to advocate around, hey, can we get more leafy greens? This is the third day in the row we've had hot dogs. Like, we need some balance here around what you would want to eat and what I would want to eat, right? And the last message that's coming through is a lot of you are just shedding the need to be seen as the one who does it all and who is it all to everybody. Like, some of you could have gotten a certain ego attachment around being the one who works overtime and also keeps the house spotless and is also there to help friends at any moment, and also volunteers on the weekend, and also has a rockin' gram, like doing all the things and being seen as somebody where it's like, you can ask me for help, I've got it. Like, I've got my stuff together. And it's like, with North Node in Aries in the 12th house, it's like really asking, do I have my stuff together? Maybe to a physical level, but with the energy of 12th house, there just could be a certain interest in diving into your own subconscious processing, your own self-sabotaging behaviors. Yes, because I see that some of you, that energy around, I can do it all and I can be it all, it is a technique to self-sabotage. Like, there's an energy around, so long as I'm always busy, I won't need to face things. And so that's why I say yes to when people ask me for help, even if when I want to say no, because I'm scared of my own shadow. I'm scared of being within my own solitude. And that can be something that you are fleshing out of your experience. I also see potentially some of you have been doing a certain exercise, like yoga, Pilates, what have you, that's not true to you. Like, with the Libra Lunar Eclipse, it's like shedding out what it is that you're doing just either for appearances, or that somebody else taught it to you or recommended it to you. Like, there's an awareness around, I actually don't like this at all. And this is my time, this is what I'm investing it in, and I'm not getting anything in return. That could be something coming through. If you are an Aries rising, or 5 degrees Libra lands within the 7th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. So this is a big one, okay? This is a big one. You are one of the main characters of this eclipse, either being an Aries ascendant or having this eclipse in an angular house. Either way, this can be a more major eclipse that is forming for you, especially the next one on April 8th, which subscribe to my channel because I will be doing an all signs forecast on that one as well. But firstly, bring the focus to this eclipse. You are having a spotlight on your relationships, on your connections, and where they are fair and where they are not so fair. Some of you are releasing an outdated way of connecting. If you've been in a pattern around always prioritizing your partner needs before your own, which again can be helpful in partnership, but if it has been to the detriment of your own integrity, this is an opportunity to right the scales, to really say, like, this does not feel fair, and to advocate for yourself. For some of you, this could spotlight a need to release a certain connection, a certain relationship from your life. And I want you to know, if that brings up any feelings of fear or worry within you, I want you to know that eclipses are fated portals. What's meant to be will be, what's meant to depart departs. And something you can take solace in as you navigate eclipse season, that this is a fated portal of time. And the universe would not take away this person unless they were truly no longer serving your growth, which is the case if something is revealed around this eclipse. Because some of you, I just see with this lunar eclipse opposing Neptune, some of you have been trying not to see what universe has been showing you about this person. You're just like, la 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 la, I don't see it. Like the DW meme, like suddenly, like this sign can't stop me because I can't read. Like, the universe has been sending signs and symbols and angel numbers, and you've even been hearing like rumors. Like, there's been all of these different ways that the universe has been trying to get your attention around, hey, this relationship might not be it, might be hindering your growth. And I feel for some of you, you've been like, la, 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 la. Just pulling the wool over your eyes, just like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it. And for some of you, maybe that's coming from you guys look good together. It would be a mess breaking up all of your friends, right? I see that with the lunar eclipse trining Pluto. You're like, but we have shared friends and look so cute together. And it'd be so awkward announcing that we're going to have a breakup. But just really ask yourself if that's the case. Is your unhappiness within this connection worth having a killer Instagram presence or game nights with your friends? Like, really ask yourself if you are getting what it is that you need from this connection and from this relationship. And so some of you have been getting the hints in the previews. Some of you can have certain information made aware to you at the time of this lunar eclipse. And just knowing that if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. If somebody has been consistently mistreating you, understand that that's who it is that they are. And we really can't change people, as heartbreaking as it can be. And I feel for some of you, this won't be a message for all, but you've been trying to morph. Like, you could be feeling your partner's distance and you've been trying to morph into, well, they like this, so let me wear this, or let me be more subdued, let me be less feisty. Like, been trying to morph into this person's perfect person, thinking that it's a you problem, that only if you were more lovable and more beautiful and more ideal, then they would start acting right. And it has nothing to do with you, my love. Like, let people show you who they are and how they have the capacity to treat you. And it can be heartbreaking. I don't want you to feel like you have to make any sudden decisions, but definitely observe what this lunar eclipse brings to the surface around any of your one-to-one connections. It could also show up around business partnerships, right? Maybe there's been certain contracts that don't feel fair. You're like, I'm putting in more effort into our company. You kind of just loop in every 6 months, yet our pay is 50-50. Like, this does not feel fair. Like, it may be a time in which you're being asked to advocate for yourself or in your contracts or on your partnerships, ensuring that you are getting what it is that you're putting out, okay? Balance, right? And balance isn't always 50-50. It's really a reflection of the energy that we put in and the energy we put out. So whether it's business partnerships or a relationship, you're really observing, what are you putting in and what am I receiving? What am I putting in and what am I receiving? Is it fair? Are we both watering and pouring into this connection? And how can we strive to do that more if you do find that you want to stay within your relationship? Now, some of you, there could be a spotlight on a certain relationship that you are ready to release. And this is going to be a strange message, but I see it with the opposition to Neptune. Neptune is most likely in your 12th house. It's out of sign, but it is an opposition based on degrees and orb. But alas, with Neptune in 12th house, there's somebody you've been dreaming about. Okay, there's somebody you've been dreaming about, or you have a very telepathic connection to somebody. Maybe it's someone you used to be in a relationship with. Maybe it's like a situationship that never took off, a crush that never took off. There's somebody who's alive within your auric field. Okay, and you could dream about them, daydream about them, fantasize about them. And the Libra lunar eclipse could just be spotlighting potentially a need to let that person go. A lot of times when it comes to eclipses, sometimes we have to fully close the door before we can be open to something new, whether that's a new connection or what have you, and you holding out a candle for this person to come back, or to finally come back and treat you right, or to, get out of the ethers and show up in the 3D. Like, you could be holding out a candle for these connections and blocking yourself from true, authentic connections that can be coming your way. Because I want to make it clear that yes, with the Libra lunar eclipse on the South Node, this can be time of releasing connections and partnerships and people that are no longer aligned with your journey forward. That can absolutely be part of it. But when you have eclipses, 1st and 7th house, typically it's faded entrances and faded exits. So really contemplate, if you holding out a candle for someone where it's just not materializing within your physical reality, if that's blocking you from like the soulmates trying to enter your life, sometimes you have to fully close that door. And just know that the next eclipse, it's highlighting you, your path, your desires. And I feel for some of you, you're being unapologetic about what you want out of life. You're not settling anymore. You're not building a life based on what your partner wants from you or what would make you more appealing to potential partners. You are prioritizing your own needs and you're going after and getting what you want out of this life. And there could be certain awarenesses around this Libra lunar eclipse around where people in your orbit are holding you back from getting what it is that you want out of this life. If you are a Pisces rising or the Libra Lunar Eclipse, March 25th, 2024 lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. And the focus for you with this first eclipse of the season, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll come out with my all signs Aries solar eclipse forecast in 2 weeks' time. But alas, what is the focus of this eclipse? So this eclipse is bringing forward certain stories that exist within you that you cannot do it without somebody else's help. Sometimes, I know I'm talking to a lot of Pisces ascendants, and when it comes sometimes, I know I'm talking to a lot of Pisces ascendants, and so that means you have Saturn in your sign. And can I just say, I've been so proud of my Pisces clients. I just feel like everybody has been navigating the Saturn in Pisces transit beautifully. I know it's hard, my fish, but keep going. And what you're really meant to learn during this time is that you are strong enough for this world. Because a lot of times Pisces placements, I know I'm not talking to all Pisces placements, but Pisces placements can get this story that they're not strong enough to survive within this world, that they're not strong enough, that they need other people's support in order to make it by. And you are being asked to trust in your own self-sufficiency. A lot of you might be making gains financially in terms of your business. You're prioritizing getting your money up. Maybe some of you are upgrading your lifestyle to a certain degree, and you're bossing up. What's flushing out of your system with this lunar eclipse is this belief within you that you need somebody else to merge with you in order to survive. So this could be showing up. Maybe some of you are going through some sort of divorce, or somebody was supporting you, and now they've withdrawn that support. Your parents are cutting you off. You're going through a divorce. You're splitting up assets with a business partner. There's support that you've come to rely on that you're realizing is shaky, on shaky foundation. And you're really being asked to trust in yourself and that you've got it, that you don't need this help and support that was being offered to you for a period of time. Because if it departs your life around an eclipse, that is the universe getting involved and saying, nope, this stops here, right? Because a challenging part about this story and this eclipse is that you are being asked to find the courage. And you may not realize at this present moment, but that support being offered to you was hindering you from finding your own legs and finding your own strength and swimming towards your own path. And so for some of you with the Libra lunar eclipse, you are letting go of a certain stream of support, whether this is from an interpersonal contact or also just kind of leaving things always up to the universe, up to chance. Like I said, you guys are playing in the realm of reality, making your own destiny. You're making things happen. So for some of you, you're letting go of almost this like surrendering mentality around, I have no control, whatever will be, will be. Like you're being asked to grab your destiny by the horns, and you're being asked to realize that you are worthy of your desires and of your destiny, and that you don't need to be complacent and just wait back for what people give to you. You can go out and get what it is that you want. That's something that is coming alive this eclipse season. Other themes. I see for some of you, you are letting go of some grief, and this could be showing up within somebody that you are grieving. A lot of you are grieving a past relationship. Okay, you're getting that fully out of your auric field, because I do not believe we can call in a new partner unless like our past partner is completely out of our energy, especially if you're wanting to disrupt a pattern. Like if you find that you date the same person over and over, really ask yourself if you're taking time to really energetically reset between partners, because if that person is still in your energy, you will magnetize more people like that person and likely repeat a lot of the problems within relationships. So some of you need to grieve a relationship. Like just think of that person as not being on this planet. And I know it's painful, but really with this energy, you need to go based on what is physical and what's in front of you. And if you've been holding out a candle or putting energy towards maybe they'll come back, maybe they'll come back, this is a time that you really have to call your energy back and handle what it is that you want to handle. If it's meant to be in the future, they'll come back, but this is a time to just put them out of your awareness, out of sight, out of mind, consider them no longer on this planet. So some of you could be grieving someone like that. You could be cutting someone off, you could be going no contact with someone. Like there's literally something you could be processing as like a death within your life. And I don't want you to fret. I'm not saying anybody's going to die, but you might be symbolically referring to this as a release, as an utter transformation from this particular connection. Some of you may be healing from a death that has taken place. You're being asked to really grieve and allow, and I don't think grief ever fully goes away. It changes us as a human being. That's why When we talk about 8th house, it's a very transformative house because death is something that none of us are exempt from, and it changes us dramatically. So it's not so much saying like, oh, you need to be healed and get over it. There is a real call here to just really allow that grief to move through your system, especially if you're keeping yourself suspended from opportunities or not going out to get what it is that you want because you're still holding on to guilt or what this person wanted from your life or something of that nature from that experience. You could be asked to always honor the memory of that person, but not let that experience and that what that person wanted for your life keep you back from getting and claiming the life that you know that you deserve. And for some of you, this is showing up around an ongoing divorce or some sort of legal proceeding. Alimony, child support, divorce, something of that nature, you can be fine as reaching a culmination point around the time of this eclipse. Some of you who are in a marriage and there is something around your guys' shared assets that do not feel fair, the finances do not feel equal, that could show up within business partners as well. This Libra lunar eclipse could be really asking for you to observe where it is that you trying to keep the peace and keeping your own needs and desires hidden and just being open to whatever other people give you. No, you've got North Node Aries most likely in the 2nd house. This is a time to know your worth and claim your worth. So some of you are letting go of this energy around, okay, whatever you think, like that makes sense for you to have your own private bank account and me to only have our shared one. Like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, it's powerful to have a partnership where you can trust and merge resources and build something together. But for some of you, you also need to realize and build up your own safety net or your own income. And it's not saying out of lack of trust for your partner, but it's just saying that you are a human being who deserves and is worthy of at least having some resources to spend on things that you value and like. And you may need to advocate for that and readjust some of the agreements that you have within your shared resources. If you are an Aquarius rising or 5 degrees Libra lands within the 9th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you with this Libra lunar eclipse is letting go of any belief systems that no longer align for you in your journey. Some of you have internalized certain religious considerations. Maybe you grew up in a home that was Catholic or whatever it was. You could have internalized things because that was what was normal, that's what was expected from you, and you're really looking at these belief systems and it doesn't exactly feel fair. Like, it's important when we talk about the Libra energy, it's like this scales, it's a very rational energy, and you might be like, this doesn't make sense. If the scripture says this, then why do the people at church behave like this? Like, you could be trying to make sense of maybe some cognitive dissonance, and maybe some of you grew up within this belief system and there's kind of like this awakening taking place around how that's no longer feeling necessarily aligned for you any longer, and you might be shedding it, especially if this belief system or religion was something that somebody else encouraged you to get into or somebody else was about and they kind of morphed you into it. Like, you might find that you're realizing like, this is not really authentic to me. For some of you, this isn't necessarily showing up around a certain religious doctrine or a certain religion. Some of you could just be even contemplating your higher level spiritual principles. And the house of astrology, any sort of spiritual modality is governed by the 9th house. So some of you could be playing with even considerations around, I used to be a whole sign and now I'm looking at my chart in Placidus and it makes more sense, or vice versa. Or I used to love Western, but my Vedic chart is speaking to me. Like, there can be shifts like that you are contemplating. Or you might find a lack of interest in these topics. Like, when it comes to 9th house, yes, it makes us feel connected to the something more, but with the energy of Libra and this idea of kind of balancing the scales and the opposition to Neptune, some of these interests, whether it's spirituality, religion, astrology, whatever it shows up, it could have gotten a little obsessive perhaps, or almost trying to conceptualize your life rather than living it. Like with North Node and Aries going through the 3rd house, which will go so much more in depth in the upcoming Aries solar eclipse reading in 2 weeks time. It'll be posted here on my channel, so make sure to subscribe. But where your life school is at this particular chapter, it's not that you can't return back to those practices and those disciplines, but this particular chapter, you're being asked to interact with life in a very physical, raw way. You're being asked to learn from life with North Node in the 3rd house. Learn from conversing, talk to a lot of different people about their perspectives. What you're flushing out is this energy around kind of like ivory tower, around I know it all, I've got my system all dialed in, I understand my chart. Like with the energy of North Node, third house, it's not about trying to conceptualize yourself and discover yourself. Like with the energy of this eclipse, you're letting go of constantly trying to conceptualize yourself and find the most measured pathway forward. And with North Node Aries, you're just empowering beginner's mind around just setting off on a journey, being open to learn different things, learn different skills, and learn from the school of life. Like ninth house is far away places. So it's not that you're giving up traveling necessarily, but you are giving up kind of this energy around the answers are out there only in, you know, spiritual textbooks. With the energy of North Node and Aries in the third, answers could be found within your own backyard. Wisdom can be found within small talk. Like you do not need to fly around the globe to still learn new things. And don't worry, for my travel lovers, the time will come in which it's time for that. But with the Libra lunar eclipse, you're being asked to live your life rather than just planning it or waiting on someday or waiting for the next trip. Live, learn, get messy, get raw with it. And some of you are letting go of this need to keep people at arm's length, like particularly in conversation around not wanting to let them know when you're confused. Like I don't know what's going on with my world. I haven't a clue where I'm going. Like some of you could feel that, but you still keep people at arm's length and you just come off as cool, calm, and collected. Like I've got it all figured out. And for you, what you're empowering forward is being more vulnerable within communication and not feeling like you need to retreat into textbooks and dive into your astrology chart and go to church and like figure it out just within your soul. Figure it out within life. Like these can be used in conjunction. I don't want you to feel like you have to close the door on these ninth house topics altogether, but I'm just saying a lot of your learning is in skill sets and sales and marketing and all these third house themes that we will talk about more deeply. So just being mindful around where it is that you are going inward or going out exploring into the world looking for all these answers that you could be finding within your own backyard. If you are a Capricorn rising or the Libra lunar eclipse lands within the 10th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you for this Libra lunar eclipse is to really let go of any operating systems that can exist within you that make you feel like it is more important for your life to look good from the outside rather than feel good from the inside. Some of you are letting go of certain career paths that you thought that you wanted, but you're realizing were what other people wanted of you or from you. Some of you are realizing that you have this glossy career that people admire, but you're miserable. Like you're not happy there day in and day out. And with this Libra lunar eclipse, I'm not saying you're going to lose your job or anything of that nature, but I do see there can be a spotlight just around where it is that you feel like the scales are imbalanced, around where it is that you feel like you have been pouring in and pouring in and pouring in and not getting any intrinsic income. Because, you know, something can fill the bank account and still not fill the soul. And not everybody needs to work in an industry that is their soul's calling, but I just feel like some of you are really depleted. And you're realizing that there's certain ambitions that looked glossy, that looked like they would garner, you know, respect and validation from the outside. But when you get up close and personal, you're like, this is not all that it cracked up to be. And, you know, success can be suffocating because every time you reach a new tier of success, people do expect things from you. And you can be shackled by expectations around you build a successful business of a certain product or consulting, and people will expect that from you. And you are being asked to really reroute and make decisions really from your soul space, from your ideal lifestyle, and writing the scales of where things feel imbalanced. If you've just been working and working and working and working and not taking time to kind of water and nourish your private gardens, this can be a lunar eclipse that's just making you aware of how profoundly burnt out you are and that there is a need to end a cycle. So it's not that everybody's ending a career. Some of you are just ending a cycle around work, particularly prioritizing so long as everything looks good on from the outside, so long as everybody likes me, all of my customers are happy. Listen, especially if you have your own business, like your customers aren't your boss, you do want to make them happy, but you are the driver, the CEO, the creator of your business for those who are self-employed, and you need to build your own business before you just create yourself a job. Like a lot of people, when they start a business, they just create themselves a job, which can be empowering. But what I mean by that is one of the most beautiful parts about being self-employed is that you dictate what projects you want to work on, what your day-to-day looks like. And some of you have found some success, but so much so that you just feel ensnared by other people's expectations and demands and just the pressure of success, that it feels like something that was just as limiting as, you know, your 9 to 5 if you used to have one, or something of that nature. Let's say you work in more traditional employment. With this Libra lunar eclipse, you could be letting go of needing validation from your boss. Okay, some of you, weird message, but some of you seeking validation from authority figures to counteract the lack of validation that you receive from a paternal figure within your world. And so when a boss says, oh, you messed up on this, you perceive that as a certain, you know, if it's a father wound, if it's just an authority figure wound in general, you perceive that it cuts deeper because it's beyond just this individual saying, hey, this project isn't exactly it. It's telling you, I am not valuable. I am not worthy. I am not lovable. Now I need to carve and shapeshift and make myself perfect in order to get this validation from this person back, because that feels like success to me. That is where I'll know I'm successful, is when I have approval through my authority figure's eyes, through my boss's eyes. It's important that your boss is just a boss, okay? You do not need to carve and try to mold your entire reality around being accepted by this person. And with this Libra lunar eclipse, that can be something that you are letting go of. There can be certain tensions that have been building with the boss that reach ahead. And for some of you, it's coming from a place where you are not advocating for yourself. You are favoring harmony above what it is that you need. You are wanting to people please. You're wanting that validation, and that could be spotlighted with this lunar eclipse. And there's a deep need for boundaries, especially with the opposition to Neptune. But I do want you to feel empowered by the new beginning that is taking place with the trine to Pluto. And just know that some of you, when it relates to career and public persona, there could just be an energy around being like, why am I not more in this? Like you just be having a lack of motivation, lack of energy. Maybe it's something you used to want. Now you're just like, why am I not more excited that I got this milestone? Or why am I not more excited that I got this new lead? There's something that's changing around the energy, and it can make you feel really off kilter, because I know I'm talking to a lot of Capricorn risings who do enjoy the pursuit of building something worthwhile. And there could be sensations that emerge within you around, what's wrong with me? Why am I not as motivated as I was? Understand that you get to set the pace, okay? You get to set the pace. And it's impossible for a plant to bloom 365 days a year, right? It's impossible for you to sprint a marathon unless you're like an Olympian, right? Sometimes you do need to pace yourself, and that can show up within a steady jog, or it can show up within times that you're feeling really inspired and times that you need to pull back the reins a little bit, and you're not necessarily as concerned around how it is that you're gonna boss up and get to the next level and get to the next level. You're like, well, maybe some of your desires are taking place around, I really want to start a garden. I maybe want to start a family. I am feeling more inspired to build up this certain skill that I've been learning. You can find that it's destabilizing how suddenly things that you used to want, you no longer want. But I want you to just honor that there's new sides of yourself that are coming alive. And if anything, my love, this is a sign of growth. That you are no longer finding your worth just around how you are perceived within the public eye. You're really wanting to carve a life that feels good. And sometimes that indicates recalibrating our scales to focus on other arenas of our life. You are the CEO of your world, and your career department is just one department that you're overseeing. You're also overseeing the health department, the relationship department, the home department. So some of you are just seeing, I've invested so much in the career department, it's time to recalibrate. There's other arenas of my life that deserve some of my time and energy. If you are a Sagittarius ascendant, or you have 5 degrees Libra located within the 11th house, this is your reading. So for you, there may be certain reveals around people within your friendship circle or within your broader network. There could be somebody who is not who you thought that they were. There could have been somebody who was all nice and sweet in front of your face, but was talking crap about you behind your back. There could be certain colleagues who acted like it was all good between you guys, but was really like plotting on your downfall. I mean, not to be dramatic with it, but I just feel like you are seeing somebody within your wider network for who it is that they are. And I want you to know that what is revealed right now, Spirit is intentionally lifting the veil from your eyes to show you who people are. So as frustrating as these reveals can be, you could be like, oh gosh, I thought you were an associate of mine, or oh gosh, I thought you were a friend of mine. As upsetting as it can be, and give yourself space to feel the feelings, certainly, just know that this is for your highest and best good. It's important for you to see people as they are, and not just for the facade, the pretty facade that they were showing you, because it just feels like there could be someone within your larger orbit who was pretending to be something that they were not, or pretending to have a certain relationship with you when there were other feelings beneath the surface. That'll be a story for some. I don't want you to panic or freak out looking around at your friends being like, who's plotting on my downfall? But I do see some of you are absolutely having an awareness around, you act like it's all cool, yet I heard this, or you don't like hearing about my successes. Like, you're just seeing some sneaky behavior around people who act like it's all good to your face. And I really want you to honor that data that does come up. Some of you are letting go of surface level relationships or friendships. Like, some of you could have felt like it was really important to be part of a friendship group, even if there wasn't really a deeper level of depth, or you didn't feel like you were able to express yourself or be yourself. Listen, I'm talking to a lot of Sagittarius ascendants right now. You need to be able to be yourself. And I feel for some of you, you've been in a friendship group where you felt like you had to be muted or subdued. Like, some of you have been keeping up certain friendships, like for appearances. Like, really observe when you are with friends, when you feel energetically drained after hanging out with them, when the scales just feel so out of whack. Like, that is your energy signaling to you that there is an energy leak here taking place. And this can be a time around just withdrawing your energy from the connections where it just feels very one-sided. Like, balanced connections only, and deep, fulfilling relationships that see you as you are only, because what you are clearing out is relationships just based on appearances or very surface level factors around, we both like these activities, or we both hang out in these places, or what have you. You are prioritizing people and places and activities that make you feel alive. You are prioritizing your own creativity, your own self-expression, and you're letting go of what other people have to say about it, is really the vibe. Some of you, this is coming through around social media or your social media audience. You could have been trying to create content to gear towards what you think other people will like, or what will secure you likes or validation. And with the trine to Pluto, most likely in your third, I see that some of you are revolutionizing your sales, your social media, your marketing. You're prioritizing creativity. You're prioritizing self-expression. Listen, I know it's weird on social media these days. It feels like very unoriginal content is what is thriving on these platforms. But what I see is that you're starting to view these platforms as a creative expression. And you're calling in, soulmate clients or sales from a place where this feels good, this feels true to me. You're letting go of outdated, subdued, muted ways of marketing yourself and of cultivating a following. And as you shift your content, for those of you who are content creators, you may have certain people who are less interested in your content, but as you step into your authenticity, you'll be tapping into your magnetism to draw the right souls, the right people to you, to your work, and to your creativity. And for some of you, the story isn't so much those arenas. For some of you, it's the purging and the releasing of dreams that were never yours, like dreams for the future that were never yours. Maybe you had a partner who has left your life, who kind of influenced you around, you should build this, or this is the dreams that you should pursue, or the aspirations that you should pursue, or the friends that you should have. And you're starting to realize that was never true to me. Like, I didn't want that. You wanted that, and you projected that onto me. Like, some of you, there's a spotlight around, these dreams are not mine. These are yours. And for you, with North Node, Aries, 5th house, like, you are honoring what is lighting you up. That is the data you're following. For some of you, you're letting go of just perpetually being an indecision around what it is that you want to create for your future, and you're just stepping into the radiant now. And that story will be amplified as we get closer and closer to the Aries solar eclipse, April 8th. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, as I will be doing all signs reading for that as well. But in the interim, you are just shedding outdated visions for the future, outdated friendships, outdated associates. You are seeing, the snakes and the fakes in the friend group, if they do exist. Some of you could just be letting go of needing a friendship group for appearances. Like, maybe you're just prioritizing like deep, soulful, one-on-one connections. The ask with North Node and Aries is just to prioritize what makes you feel alive. If you are a Scorpio rising, Scorpio ascendant, or 5 degrees Libra lands within the 12th house of your astrological natal chart. This message is for you. And for you, what is being released from your life is more so subconscious processing, subconscious stories that you have been telling yourself. And some of these are projections, honestly, from other people. Okay, there's things that you tell yourself about what it is that you can and cannot do within this lifetime, what it is that you deserve within a relationship that are projections from other people, from a one-to-one. There's certain stories or voices that are playing out within your mind that are not yours. And it is a spotlight around shedding these stories that don't belong to you, operating systems that were never yours to run within the inner context of your mind, and you're getting those out of your life. And you are particularly letting go of what has been draining you, like energetically. Ooh, this is kind of a strange message, but there's got to be one of you who need to hear this. There's somebody within your orbit, and I'm not saying they're doing it maliciously, but there could be somebody who is a little bit energetically siphoning off of you. And since it's an eclipse in Libra, it could be somebody who's trying to be nice to your face. It could be somebody who's like, you know, in a similar business and it's always like, oh, you're doing so good, or this is going so well. But this Libra lunar eclipse, you're really seeing the behavior for what it is. You're like, you can say whatever sweet words you want, but I know you're a secret hater. Like, there's just like an awareness around secret haters who are very nice to your face. And I really want you to trust your intuition on this. You're going to see it during the Libra lunar eclipse, or at least your intuition is going to kind of feel guided to tell you. You could even have dreams and honor the wisdom that can come to you during your dreams during this time. I always say with eclipses, you don't have to do anything drastic during the eclipses. We have eclipse brain. We're a little frenetic and all over the place, but definitely honor what comes through and honor those little pings where you're like, you're being really nice to my face, but why do I feel like you might be saying something behind my back or something of that nature? Some of you have been energetically and psychically holding on to a person, and it's an ideal. It might be an ex, or it might be something that didn't totally flesh out and you haven't been able to like move on. You're still keeping this person in your aura, in your energy. You still dream of them. They might still come up when you get psychic readings. You still have them pop up in your mind all of the time. And you might be like, what is this? Why is this person still in my energy field? I'm so frustrated and annoyed. And to a bigger level, you are being guided to focus more so on your physical material reality, just with North Node in Aries within the 6th house, prioritizing your health, your day-to-day, your work, your routines, what have you. And this person could be draining some of your energy. Again, Libra is about balance and scales, and this might be a connection that you are feeding into mentally, psychically, energetically, that is taking from you more than it is really adding to your life. Because, you know, there's so many beautiful songs that have been written about, you know, muses who are just out of our reach and the one who got away and what have you, but just really observing where they are taking more from you. I remember in a video about limerence one time, the individual who's talking shared that like when we're in a limerence state, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but when we're in a limerence state or we're kind of obsessing or idealizing what life could be like with this person or when we're going to reunite, that is a way of checking out from our reality. We are virtually checking out from our reality and plugging into this idealized reality. And some of you are just beginning to be aware around how imbalanced it is. Maybe you're adding more energy psychically to the connection. Maybe you're frustrated. The other person might be the one who's really keeping this energetic connection alive and getting you really frustrated because you're like, why am I always thinking about you and seeing your name and seeing your license plate? Like, this is so frustrating. Like, the Libra lunar eclipse could just be spotlighting that this is taking from you more than it's giving, or you are giving to it more than you are receiving. There might be awareness around that, and an awareness that there is a pattern that needs to be broken here. Now, my personal advice is I typically don't recommend doing rituals around eclipses, as they are very potent portals. So I typically recommend, you know, what will be, will be, but definitely be aware of what's coming through and what cycles you are ready to release and what endings you're ready to process in relation to just people who are not physically showing up in your life, but like energetically, mentally, dream-wise are. And on that note of, dream about someone or idealizing somebody who's not showing up within your physical reality, thinking of that as a way of checking out, some of you are just observing that overall, even if you're in a relationship within your 3D, some of you use that relationship to check out from your own healing or your own growth or your own problems. Some of you escape through relationships. You self-sabotage through relationships. Some of you are letting go of self-sabotaging behaviors in relationships during this lunar eclipse, or at least this lunar eclipse could bring about a situation, an epiphany, a conversation that makes you aware of how it is that you self-sabotage and self-destruct within relationships. And this will only be a message for a couple of you, but I see that this is coming through in a couple of different ways. Some of you could have this energy where you want to break it off before the other person breaks it off with you, like kind of like an avoidant type beat around, being overly in this Libra analytical energy around, well, they took 2 days to reply to me, so I'm just going to block them so that they get the message that you need to reply to me right away because you don't want to be rejected. So you like self-sabotage what could be a good thing because you don't want to feel rejected, because maybe that brings up something deep within your psyche that feels really uncomfortable. That's one way some of you self-sabotage within relationships. Some of you self-sabotage around losing yourself in the relationship. I mean, I know I'm talking to a lot of Scorpio rising, so it's like you merge completely and you can lose yourself, especially with this lunar eclipse opposing Neptune, and you're gaining awareness of how you lose yourself within relationships and how that's also not conducive for intimacy. It's truly not. And some of you are like shedding years and years of patterns around codependency and people pleasing. And some of you choosing partners to try to right some of the psychological challenges that you've had within your own experiences. And so some of you are just gaining awareness on these patterns and you're wanting to release them. Some of you are wanting to release bad habits, honestly, any way that you self-sabotage or run from yourself or don't deal with emotions, even if it's not relationships, overworking, anything that takes you off balance, substances, drinking, like things that are taking more from you more than they are giving. There's a quote, I think it's drinking steals tomorrow's happiness, right? Like it's not balanced. Like every time you indulge in something or run from your emotions, you're just taking it out from the next day. Minus it a little bit of the happiness, right? Like it's not balanced. Like what it is that you're investing with in this experience, you might get a moment of relief or happiness, but it takes even more from you. It's not a balanced exchange. And there's nothing wrong with these activities if they're done in moderation, but I just see for some of you, they're not done in moderation. Like it's imbalanced. It's taking more from you. And you have to like really get real with yourself and acknowledge that it is not giving to you. And oftentimes we can delude ourselves into thinking, well, I'm not hurting anyone, or well, I'm still getting up and going to work every single day. But really ask yourself, what is this really giving to me? How is this really serving me? How is this really helping me? And is this balanced? Am I getting back the energy I invest in this activity? Am I checking out from my reality by indulging in this activity? Some of you are getting real about your escapist tendencies. So my love, this Libra lunar eclipse is a spotlight on the balance that exists within your life or the lack thereof. And it presents this cosmic opportunity to calibrate the scales within your universe. And one thing I want to let you know, and I want you to rest easy within this knowledge as we navigate this eclipse season, is to know that the scales that are being calibrated, the new entrances into our life that are coming in, the outdated exits from our life that are departing, everything that is transpiring during this time is fated. And this particular eclipse with it aspecting Neptune, and you may not get that clarity right away around why this situation had to be revealed or why this had to go. But trust me, all will become clear in time. So just know that what scales are meant to be calibrated are being revealed to you during this eclipse season. So just know that I'm sending you a lot of love. I'm sending you a lot of protection. If you feel so called to jump in for the upcoming group classes, we would so love to have you in Self-Care Astrology. All of the information is below. And a reminder, you can use the code Eclipse Season to get 33% off whichever tier you jump in. There's the 8-week course that you can jump in, just through the online portal and then the live classes, or there's also one-on-one voice memo options from me where you get little check-ins from me every week, or one-on-one consultations that you can also add on. So check that all out below. I'm sending you a lot of love, and until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.